Hello and welcome to Elseworlds DC fan podcast. My name is Jordan. With me is Chris. Before we fully introduce ourselves, just want to mention we will be reacting to Superman and Lois season 3, episodes 9 through 12. And we're also going to talk about that season 4 renewal and what it means for the show going forward. But how are you today, Chris?
I'm doing very well. Very awesome episode of Superman and Lois last night. We have a lot to touch on, and this show getting renewed makes this conversation mean something right now, which is all we can ask for.
Yeah, I mean, that is kind of like the big relief, right? Like I thought we were
Mhm.
going to be talking about this season the whole time without knowing about a renewal because that was kind of the way it was going for a while. But we got the renewal like what, maybe a week and a half ago, um, something like that, a week ago. I don't know, but um, that has finally started to spread some, I guess, like I don't know, like spread some goodwill in my body for watching the season. Because if we were doing weekly recaps, I would be watching this show weekly. But what I've decided is since we do like these 4 issue bunches, I've kind of fallen into the pattern of waiting until before we record these and then binging all 4. 2 on Monday, 2 on Tuesday, and then record on like Thursday or Wednesday. And that's helped me remember them easier and stuff like that. But I will say as well, with the cancer subplot, I was it was a little like uh sometimes it's not as fun watching, right? Because it's hitting real home, like it is real stuff, real emotions that Lois is going through, that many women many women go through, and it was kind of this point where it was a downer sometimes watching this stuff. Now that I know it's renewed, I'm very happy because I thought maybe if it got canceled at the end of the season, we heard there's a huge cliffhanger. But what I also had thought is, are we really going to end this whole show on this sour note of Lois recovering through cancer and we then have a huge cliffhanger? Like, I was a little worried about that, but I think hopefully it's not like season 4, she's not going to be like totally done with it. I'm sure they're going to have other things going on, but I'm kind of hoping with it potentially being the final season. It hasn't been officially confirmed. They might try to squeeze another season out of this. I just hope that whatever happens, they decide before they start writing if this is the final season or not. Because I don't want to go through all this again next year, Chris, where we're like, is this show gonna come back or not? Um,
Absolutely.
it's 10 episodes for people that don't know. 10 episodes. Just let's bask in those 10 episodes and let's have honest to God Lex Luthor versus Superman. I am very excited, especially after last night's episode.
Yeah, last night's episode was a doozy, but I think I remember the first thing I texted you was show has a chance to go out on its own terms, and that's why next season just put a perfect little bow on it, tie it up, because the world of television, and especially when you're on the CW, is not getting any more firm under your feet. So the idea of being able to finish out on their own terms and Lex Luthor as the final villain, yeah, that's pretty awesome. And this Lex Luthor is absolutely unhinged. He is so controlled, and yet he is so much chaos. Very Wilson Fisk-like from Daredevil. I love the way they're going with it. He is the Lex Luthor who seems to be obsessed with being the peak of physical perfection, the peak of humanity. He wants to be the smartest, strongest, most brilliant person in the room, and I and he's just downright evil, and it's so obvious. And yeah, we have a lot to unravel with the episodes that because we're not just talking about last night's episode, but He left an impression. I mean, I think the show is going to be fine the way it is. I've seen a lot of irresponsible reporting and a lot of trying clickbait with titles on the internet. They these shows have to play politics with their budget and they have to appease their corporate overlords, which is the CW. So the, there's always going to be a restriction with that. I think you're going to see less of everybody that aren't the Kents or Lex Luthor. And to be perfectly honest, it has a chance to make it a stronger show because it could be a tighter story with less convoluted storylines. What I don't want is any untied strings because the show's budget didn't allow it. That's my one concern. I think the show is best when it's honed in on a single story, and this 10 episodes, they have a great opportunity to do that.
The thing that gets me is everyone's always like, can they please just focus on the Kents? And then they throw an uproar when when this is what they're gonna end up having to do anyway. Um,
Yep.
Look, it means less Cushings, which for a lot of people is a plus. I like them. Um,
I don't want less Lana, and I don't want the Jordan and Sarah thing to not be resolved. But outside of that, I mean, I like Kyle. I like what they did with Kyle. It doesn't push the story forward all the time. And
mhm,
in 10 episodes, I just the way that they use Kyle is pleasing, but at the same time, 10 episodes, the story becomes king, and I wonder what they're going to do with that. So, I mean, I can understand why he would not be a series regular moving forward. I mean, I just don't want the Jordan thing to just be unresolved. But Jordan's got so many problems right now. You could probably fill a whole season with the problems he has created for
mhm.
himself. We'll get there.
Yeah, they might have to nip that stuff in the bud at the beginning of the season next year if they want to wrap this up. Yeah, but yeah, I mean, look, I'm worried about hopefully we don't lose like John Henry and Nat. I like I said, I think those people will come back. Now the thing is, it's how many episodes will you have? 10 episodes. If you space them out right, you're not going to notice anything wrong with the show. And what I mean by that
Yep.
is, you might have one episode where it's just the four of them, but you're going to have an episode with at least John Henry Irons. And in that episode, maybe you don't have Lana, and you have Lana show up in the next episode with the Cushings. And then in the following episode, you have Kyle show up with Chrissy. And what you do is you're spacing them out where these characters are just showing up, like you're having a guest star almost every week.
Hmm.
Um, and, you know, at that point, 10 episodes, you're thinking, oh, that went by pretty quick. And we did get chunks of those characters. Sometimes people overestimate how much screen time you need for somebody.
Yeah.
Um, like we just talked about it in the Flash, the movie. We're not going to spoil anything, but like Michael Keaton, Sasha Kaye, they're not in it as much as some people want it. But also, when I'm watching it, I think that they're in it more than they are. Like because they're either breaking up their scenes or it takes a bit to get to them or whatever. So like I talked about this when I covered Ted Lasso on my Ted Lasso podcast and our soccer podcast that I have with my friend. People were worried the last episode wasn't going to be able to wrap everything up in time. I'm like, if you're worried about like somebody like having a conversation with somebody, that's literally 30 seconds to 2 minutes of screen time. And we already knew the episode was an hour 15, hour 20. So at that point, I'm like, you can wrap up some of this stuff. When you think, oh, they still have to make up or they still have to apologize and all that, those are really quick scenes. Those are really like things that can just be done so fast. So 10 episodes is plenty, I think, for them to wrap it up. I'm hoping, and we can kind of end it here and then kind of dive into the actual episodes, but I'm hoping that they do decide this is it and they
Yep.
don't try to risk it again.
Yeah, don't be irresponsible. I think the show has always been very mature. They know who they are, they know what they want to do. And I think if this show has the collective consciousness of, hey, let's go out on a great note, I think it's going to be one of the strongest seasons in television history.
I hope so. Lex Luthor. I mean, I'm so glad we finally got introduced to Lex Luthor. We're gonna try not to skip right to that right to that
Yeah,
part though.
it's what we want to talk about. That's the problem.
It is.
It was so
All right, so
captivating,
so
but
we're talking first about the episode "The Dress," which was episode 9, directed
mhm.
by Stephen Meyer, written by Christy Korsek, and it was May 23rd, 2023, is when that premiered. So in the episode, a lot of flashbacks of Clark buying Lois a dress to wear, um, and then she's getting ready to have a mastectomy, so she doesn't feel like pretty in the dress, so she wants to get rid of it. It has these memories for her, and that was pretty much her overcoming with that. Then you also had you know uh, Jonathan trying to tell Natalie to give up on Mateo, which was seen as hypocritical in his end because of um, his girlfriend's dad. It's a little different than Bruno Mannheim, but still, I get her point. And then um, they have this huge fight on Main Street, and John Henry actually kills one of the people. His name was Miller. Kills Miller in the street, and then Bruno shows Mateo inverse Superman's body, which is of course Bizarro. So that was that episode. I thought it was a really good episode actually, the dress, and I liked how much they dropped Cal Ripken into this.
Yeah, as a Baltimore guy, I did appreciate that. The Cal Ripken card, of course, being what he
And
had
I
to
know
part with.
you're more of a Ravens guy, but I'm more of an Orioles guy. So I mean that
There
was
you go.
yeah, growing up, Cal Ripken and the O's were my life. So
Hey, I am a Baltimore boy, and I do have some nice emotional memories with the Orioles too. So, baseball's never been my big jam, but yeah, that was nice. I agree. As a Baltimore guy, that was cool. I I really enjoyed this episode. But the whole time I'm like, before it really gets revealed, we're thinking, okay, what's wrong with Lois? What's going on? We know Clark didn't do anything. Clark never does anything. So it's like, what's going on? And I like how they slowly develop the storyline. And then I felt like it had a payoff. I felt like it had a payoff, and the story was really well constructed. And it had so much packed into that episode, and that was just one thread in it. I mean, you had all the stuff going on with Bruno and Inverse Superman and Mateo. It was a really jam-packed episode, and a lot of times you leave Superman and Lois, and you just kind of need to decompress because man, they hit on everything. They didn't leave anything untouched, and you're just like, that was a lot.
yeah, the next episode was called Collision Course, directed by Elaine Mongian. Max Cunningham and Max Chronic wrote the episode. May 30th of 2023. This was where Lois finished chemotherapy. She tried to get Pia to confess to framing Lex. Lana and Chrissy meet with Governor Kerry Wexler, in which is, I don't know, the C plot of the episode is very short, not much going on there. Clark tries to spend time with the twins, but they decide to go to a party. This is where we get the kegger, Sarah and George Jr. drunk driving, Jordan saving them, George Jr. seeing him. Get some good stuff there. Sarah gets charged with a DUI. Um, and then they go to the diner, which is where the governor sees that it is Lana's child who is in trouble here. Uh, Mateo visits Pia and gives her the cure, but this allows her to escape and her wrecking the DOD pretty much. Um, Jordan admits to being spotted. Clark realizes that he was drinking. And he also confronts Jonathan, who he thought was drinking, but Jonathan was not. Good boy. And oh yeah, this is where Kyle is convinced that Jonathan's the one that has powers. And I'm looking at my wife as this is happening, and I'm like, we're near the end of the episode. Clark has to go save this thing. He's going to just take off right in front of Kyle, isn't he? And this is how Kyle learns the secret. I thought this was great. I saw some people complaining before I saw this that Kyle knowing the secret is dumb and blah, 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 blah. But look, this is a natural evolution, I think, of the show. I like Kyle. I'm glad I was pissed off with Chrissy as well. All right. Like when she's gaslighting him that, oh no, there's no other superhero. And he's like, you don't think this is newsworthy? And like kind of Lana and Sarah do the same thing to him. I mean, that's got to be frustrating when you think you
Mm.
found something and people are telling you, oh, that's nothing, dude, and treating you like an idiot. And then he finds out, and man, this is just I don't know. I really thought this was a iconic scene, I will say, of the series that I will always remember. Like Kyle just there thinking it's Jonathan, and then Clark being like, Clark just flicks him with a finger and he goes a little flying back a bit, and then he's like, we'll deal with this later, takes off. Absolutely
I'll
awesome.
explain this to you tomorrow. Yeah, and I love this. I love this episode. I think this might be one of the best episodes of the series. I thought the scene you just described perfectly, by the way, was Superman showing priorities. He could have gotten, no, I'm not going to reveal my secret. No, I'm not going to reveal my secret and show Kyle who I am and have to deal with a mess. He goes, no, I have to do what's right, and sometimes doing what's right is not convenient. And, I think that was fantastic. And it was really a pressure cooker of a moment. It was really, the pressure was just pounding. I think you're seeing a little bit of hints that Jordan is into the attention here. Now knowing the episode we just saw, the reason he got seen was because he kind of wants to savor the moment after he makes the save. That's something that didn't click with me during that episode that now clicks with me after what we just saw. So I really enjoyed this episode. I thought the thing with the governor and Lana was forgettable, and I thought it was like I didn't like the governor character. Like she,
Mm-mm.
she really really made me squeamish.
She's kind
Just
of
the way,
slut shaming Chrissy a bit
yeah,
when she's
she
talking
treated
about
Chrissy like a second
Kyle's
class
new
citizen.
man,
Yep.
Kyle's new woman, and then
Yeah,
yeah.
she just wasn't a very nice person. And I that turned me off a bit. I really I had trouble with that. But then, Sarah comes to the diner and, Lana has bigger fish to fry, literally, as her daughter. And, I think the way the governor handled that was bullshit. So I didn't like that storyline. Uh, I've wondered, leaving this episode, if Sarah was going to be angry that Jordan didn't fly her away from the scene so she wouldn't get in trouble. I'm glad they didn't go that route with it. But because Jordan and Sarah have to be angry at each other, they're still angry at each other.
Yeah, that is probably the least favorite part of this. The governor, like you said, probably a little bit forgettable, right? Um, I have a lot to say about Jordan when we get to the last episode.
Hmm.
Um, because I might have a different approach than what some people have on that. Not just because he shares my name, but um, I like that Jonathan easily points out like if you could tell if I was drinking by just smelling me, and
Yeah.
then Clark's like, "You're right. I'm sorry. Here's your keys back." And I'm glad they didn't go that way with Jonathan
Mhm.
as well. He's learned, right? Like he is a character
Right.
that
And
learned.
that's character development. And I also like that Clark's reaction was measured and was reasonable. Clark jumps the gun because he's dad. But then, listens to Jonathan. He doesn't just come down on him. And that's a really measured response.
Also, I like that the whole Kyle Chrissy thing lasted one episode, right?
Yeah, it
With
wasn't this, you kept the secret around from me.
right.
It wasn't Supergirl with Lena finding out about the secret and
And holds on to
then
it for a season and a half.
yeah,
I hate
it's
this
like a
so much.
scene. I got that. It is my least favorite story trope in all of superhero media, really media in general. So I'm
The show's
glad that
been
was,
the show's been very good at like not falling into that
yeah,
with a lot of the stuff. Like you lied to me. Okay, same thing could have happened once Kyle found out, right? He could be like, "You're Superman. You lied to me this whole time." He doesn't do that. He in fact is enamored with the guy now. Um, it was just there's so many times where you could pull that thread
hmm
that they do in these other CW shows, which I've enjoyed. We're doing my Arrowverse recaps. I'm enjoying them. But there are some times where they're stretching on those plots a little too far. Supergirl is probably the biggest offender, along with Arrow, where it's always secrets and lies.
it's always
Um,
secrets and lies.
yeah. So that
It's
was,
always secrets and
I just
lies.
love that
Yep.
this is wrapped up in one episode. Kyle comes over to her, and Lana's the one that helps initiate it. Chrissy sticks up for Lana to the Senate, like to the governor. They aren't like catty ex girlfriend, ex wife, current girlfriend, stuff like that. They had like a little exchange of that at the beginning until Lana realizes it's not Chrissy's fault, right?
And they
And
respect each other too.
and they're
That helps.
co-parenting well right now. Those two,
hmm
when it comes to the DUI, he says, I think, or she says, right, we should approach this as a united front, or he says that, one of them says it, and they agree, and they have a conversation with Sarah. They tell her to get a job, pretty much. I mean, yeah,
Which
I
is
mean
good.
that was the kind of stuff that I really enjoyed out of this episode. Is just uh, that I was kind of surprised, and again, this is something a CW show may not have done before, or a superhero show may not, is the fallout of the save. And I don't mean like on Jordan's end, I mean on Sarah's end, where she saved, but the cops still found the car. They
Yeah.
still know she's drinking, and yes, she's alive, but now she has consequences, and they're dealing with real consequences where she's talking about, I forget what episode it is, but when she's talking about that's going to stay on my record for 5 years. How am I going to get
She's
into
gonna be
college? How
stuck
am
in
I going to do this
Smallville.
stuff?
Yeah.
Yeah. Stuff that maybe other shows would have just kind of blown past and said, this week, that's not going to affect her at all. But
Yeah,
I like that.
it's real world stuff. It's very good. I agree with everything you just said there. I I really like the way that Sarah has been handled this season. I honestly, she's a character that grew on me because in the beginning I really did not like her character. I thought she was kind of toying Jordan along, and you know what? She's a character that they really fleshed out and they really paid attention to. I hate the always angry with Jordan or Jordan always angry with her storyline, but that's the writing. The characters, the actors are doing a great job with it. And I really do like that, the real life consequences of what you do, you have to deal with. She got saved, so she's lucky on that front, but her life is at the lowest point it's been since she was suicidal.
Yeah.
So that, and I liked how they hinted at that, and that was the parents concern, but they didn't stay there and sulk on it. They don't overdo these things. The only thing I think they've ever really overdone was the lana Lana Chrissy thing in the beginning of the season. Other than that, I think they've really minded to be a mature show.
Yeah.
I think they've been a very mature show, and I, I'll tell you, Sarah getting a job and dealing with the potential of staying in Smallville her whole life and really becoming a lot like her mother and following her mother's life is kind of an, it's an interesting storyline that, kind of goes unnoticed in a superhero show.
And the episode we're talking about right now, I forgot to say, it is Complications. That's episode 11, directed by Jay Jameson, teleplay by Katie Aldrin, George Kitson, story by Brent Fletcher and my boy Todd Helbing. That was June 6th of 2023 that premiered. This is where, Kyle learns that Clark is Superman. He gets upset with Chrissy. That's that whole episode. Jordan suffers a panic attack. He gets his X-ray vision in this episode as well, which I liked how Jonathan helped him through that, and Clark was able to just go back into the room with Lois and say like it's handled. Like Jonathan's helping him with this. What I like about that is there's this segment online where they call Jordan what like Todd Helbing self insert or a creator's pet type of thing. I don't think we're supposed to feel that way about Jordan. And people really want Jonathan to get powers because in the comics he has powers. But I really like the dynamic they have
Mhm.
with Jonathan and Jordan. Jonathan says, Jordan's all like, woe is me, I got a new power. And Jonathan's like, hey, when I'm depressed, I'm just still depressed. You're depressed and have a whole new ability now. Like that's cool. That's different than what I have. And seeing how he was able to calm his brother down. There's a point where they're both being yelled at and they just look at the TV and they say, "Best of 3. Let's play some Madden." Pretty
Yep.
much, right? And I love the dynamic of the brothers, and I think I like it even more with Michael Bishop as Jonathan. I think he's really nailing the character.
It's a completely
I lo-
different character.
I love it. I love him so
It's
much.
great, yeah. I didn't like Jonathan at any point of the series until this season. The actor changes everything for me. The line delivery is a lot less annoying, and he feels much more supportive of Jordan, even when he's angry at Jordan. And this is a family drama. It is the family. Everyone in that Kent family has to hit for the show to work, and I think Jonathan is not just a plot device now to get to the story. He's part of the story. And you know what? I hope the actor who played Jonathan before, is focused on what he needs to focus on and is glad that he made this decision. But this is for the better of the show. It really is. It's fantastic. I can't get over the fact that he looks so much older than the other actor, and these
I
are
think
the
he looks
oldest.
younger. I think he looks younger.
Really?
Yeah.
I think he looks more mature. I think these are the oldest looking 16-year-olds in the world.
I think he looks younger than Jordan Elsass. I do. I think he looked older to me. But it's funny. I've seen people say the both. I've seen people say both that they think he looks younger, and I've seen people say he looks older. So I
His
guess it's
voice
whatever
also is
perspective.
deeper. His voice
It's
also is
less
deeper. That
whiny.
might have,
I think
yeah.
it is less whiny. I wanted to shout out Bazoombas, which is obviously a Hooters parody. They're talking
Oh
about the
yeah.
wings, how they're famous for the wings, but
And I love how Clark plays it off. It's about the wings.
yeah,
It's
yeah.
so.
See, I told you that's what they're famous for. Um, I did like that. That's Lois's sense of humor. She's about to lose her breasts due to a mastectomy, and she wants to have bazoombas. I really like that. Okay, also when Pia just shouts no and the guy gets obliterated, I
And
was
then
like, "Oh my god!"
I was like, am I watching a different channel right now?
Yeah, it was
I
pretty
was very
gruesome.
impressed. I was very impressed. That could be something you would see in like a Deadpool movie, and then there would be like a funny joke after it. But no, that was just unbelievably fierce. And inadvertently fierce. I felt very bad for Pia, which is really strong writing because she's not a character that should be sympathetic. She does a lot of bad, horrible things, and she makes a lot of people around her suffer. But she is a really caring mother. She's believes that her and Bruno are the heroes of their story. And I really felt bad for Pia, and she couldn't control it, and she was sick, and she took a cure that wasn't a cure. I thought they really layered that storyline very well, and every time I talk about the show, it's the writing. So I hope this writer's strike doesn't have a negative impact on the show. And this is a great reason why we need to side with the writers and have them get paid, because nuanced television is what I am here for.
Yeah, I think it'll be fine. I think they have enough runway. I think this will probably be a spring 2024 show. So hopefully this strike gets resolved soon. They're able to write the episodes in the fall, start filming in like January, aired in March or April. Let's go. Um, I really like the shot of Lois being wheeled into the room, how the camera kind of stayed on her like bed that they're wheeling her in on, and you see
Hmm.
like the boys and the family in the background, and I just really like that shot. Um, Overall, very well done this episode as well. I mean, really, the back half of the season has been really tremendous, I think.
Yeah, this season almost felt like it needed to find its footing, but once it did, it was fantastic. I think the turning point of the season for me was when we last talked, and this isn't a job for Superman. And Clark goes to the diner, and goes,
Yes.
Superman's not going, and he stands up to um, the dad of Jonathan's girlfriend. I'm forgetting the name of for some reason.
Yeah, I'm trying to find it too because I keep forgetting. Candace.
But I think that was the turning point. That was when the season turned the Jets on. They knew what they were going for. They knew what they were doing, and they really honed in on the show's identity. And I think that was the turning point. I really do.
Automatopoeia, she dies. Superman helps her kind of let go. Here's another thing I like: the whole Nat and uh, Mateo stuff really worked because they didn't ever turn on each other. They were very, anytime they would let them
Mhm.
speak. This is the thing that shows don't do, right? So when he's there in the uh, apartment, and then she left a little box, right? And it's her little like Siri that says, uh, Natalie Irons is approaching, and whatever. And then she lands. So many shows would just have him lash out at her, not let her. What, you bug my place? You're not, blah, 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 And she instead is able to talk and say, "Look, I'm just here to be with you. I'm here to see how you're doing." Boom, perfect, right? Like we don't need manufactured drama like that. And then
Yep.
when Superman brings Pia back down, I'm half expecting Bruno to be like, "You killed her, Superman," and like flip out. And instead, you know, Superman says, "This is what she told me to tell you guys. She'll love you forever," right? And Bruno just nods and like thanks him, and I'm like, this is good. Like this isn't like the stereotypical, where it's like a misunderstanding, like, oh, you took her up there, you killed her, or you told her to let go. That means you killed her, and uh, again, just praising the writing. It's not this like there's so many shows that would pull that same stuff, overkill, with
Hmm.
that type of stuff. So very, very happy that that's the route they went with it. And I think we can kind of move on to yesterday's episode,
Oh boy, can we?
which was
Oh boy,
called.
can we?
I saw a lot of people theorizing because of this title, and they were
I
all
was
wrong.
nervous about the title. I was like, no, no. And I almost said something because I watched a show with mom, and I almost was like, I don't even want to guess where they're going, because this title means something in this community. Like, injustice is a thing, guys. So,
Yes,
um,
episode
and it
12,
and it was
Injustice.
something that Lois said, and it was
Hmm.
like I feel like the show is almost toying with us with this
Oh, they knew what
title.
they were doing. Here's the name of the episodes: Complications last week, right? That
Hmm.
makes me think Complications of the Surgery, right? No, it's just the complications of other things, right? Like
You're right.
Pia, all that kind of stuff. Episode 12, Injustice. Oh, for people that don't know, let's clarify this. Maybe we'll talk about this sometime, the game or the comic, but we'll cover this some point.
The
Injustice is
game,
a
the comic,
famous,
the movie.
yeah, Injustice is a famous storyline where Superman turns evil, right, due to Lois Lane dying. So, of course,
The
this title
Joker
comes
tricks
out.
him into killing her.
Yes, this storyline comes out. The title comes out, and people think, "Uh oh, does that mean Lois is going to die and Superman's going to lose it?" But this was directed by Suds Sutherland and written by Michael Narducci, and it premiered June 20th, 2023. We open with like Lex Luthor getting released from prison. We get to see his whole history in flashbacks, which I really liked. His prison time. I was able to call a lot of this stuff ahead of time. I knew he was walking to their house, and I knew he was sitting on some guy,
Yeah.
obviously, But like, there was stuff that I was like, "Oh, this is cool." And what I wrote down here in my notes, and this is how I described Lex Luthor in my notes. I said he is a mean son of a bitch.
Yep.
He was really mean. Also, I love the part where he says five, right? And they say $5,000. He says $5 for the haircut, and I was like,
And
"This
then
is
he
Lex,
explains
man."
why you should have taken his offer. And it's like,
Yes,
that is just, and he's like so calculated. He has this whole thing envisioned. And I love it when he's in the warden's office and he's like, he's been awake for 5 minutes. It's
oh
just,
my god, that scene, that's when I wrote down he's a mean son of a bitch. I mean, he the way he's like, I knew this was going to happen. I didn't shout it out to my wife though, but when he says call this number, I'm like, that's that guy's house. It's going to be his house number, and he opens up, he's like, that's my home phone number. And you're like, oh crap, and then he calls, and then it's what implied that the wife is gone, right? Like
mhm.
the kid's like, mom's in a room screaming, but she's been quiet for a bit. Like, she might be dead. And this warden is now like indebted to Lex to make sure that he doesn't kill his son. I mean, it is Lex Luthor, man. What I liked about this is it matches the tone of the show. I know people liked the John Cryer Lex. I do too. He does not fit this show at all. With
No,
this
he
type of a
doesn't.
take,
He would be too.
he's so over the top, at times.
He's very heavy-handed with his lines, which
He
means
chews
Supergirl.
scenery. Yep.
Yep, Supergirl Lex Luthor is different. It worked in Crisis. That doesn't mean it will work on Superman and Lois. I'll tell you this: this guy had an impact. Like he left a disgusting feel. He had a vibe, and when I have found out they cast him because I knew him from The Walking Dead, and
Same.
I
Yeah,
was
I
like,
love him in that.
and I was just like, I can't see it. I just can't see it because that's the only thing I've really seen him in. And oh my goodness, this guy comes out swinging. The only thing I can think of is sometimes in football, you say you got to go out there and punch him in the mouth. That's what Lex Luthor is. He goes out there, he punches you in the mouth. He's a running back who runs into contact on purpose. He is just a fierce, ferocious son of a gun.
I'm sure
I
there will be complaints that he is not like that. We don't see the typical Lex of him being a billionaire. He still is, but I mean, like, that we don't see that. We're seeing like prison Lex, and I just want to say, like, I mean, he's been in jail for 17 years in this universe, right?
he's
Or
had
20,
nothing to do but
20
do
years.
push-ups and shave his head.
Yeah, so he had to adapt with his environment, but he still has his money. That's how he's able to get all the stuff that he was getting.
And he's got a
Um,
magical trimmer that apparently doesn't need the charging station too. He just gets the trimmer. I was like,
uh,
where's he charging that
maybe
trimmer?
it's batteries. Maybe it's
I
batteries.
maybe I don't know, but I've never seen a trimmer that didn't need something to charge it. But it's just me.
Yeah, but it
Oh,
was
I also got
this
annoyed because
scene.
when he shaves his head, it's like falls off effortlessly, and I'm like, if I even get even a little thick, because I shave my head, if I even get a little thick, it takes forever.
It might be a bald cap with hair on it. I'm not sure.
That would explain how they did the flashbacks.
Hmm It's either that or they just put a bald cap on him otherwise. But I don't know if he really shaved his head or not. I might have to look into that before we talk about the finale next week.
Oh,
All
yeah.
right, let's talk Jordan. I do want to talk Jordan here a
Okay.
bit because I think the show is being a little bit ridiculous about it. This is the one thing that I will say is like the most unrealistic, I will say, is I have my notes here. Is it really bragging about having powers if Jordan is just saying the guy sounds like a badass? Now, I get what they're trying to say. Maybe he is reveling in the fame a bit, but I don't think that's bragging. I think they're misinterpreting this. I think they might be I think they might be misrepresenting it a bit.
It doesn't come off as bragging to anyone but Sarah, because Sarah knows the secret.
Yeah, but I
But
mean,
it reminds me,
like he says, he's trying to help George Jr. too, and she says, you
Mhm,
don't care about George Jr. But look, it, Jordan was bullied. He knows what it's like to be bullied, and they're like
mhm.
teasing him about something that Jordan knows is true. And again, this is one of those things that's almost like Chrissy with Kyle, where you know it's true, but you're gonna make the person think they're insane instead.
Yeah,
I mean, that's rough.
I get it. The whole time I kept saying, he is a teenage boy. He is a immature young man, and I what he did at the end of the episode is unforgivable. The thing at the school is mildly problematic at best. But Sarah, it's a game of telephone because Sarah tells Lana about it, Lana tells Lois about it, and then it spirals into uh what it is. And that I thought was fairly well handled. But it reminded me of Batman Begins, where they're in the restaurant and Bruce Wayne's like, I don't know, someone dressing as a bat doesn't have his screws on tightly or
Yeah,
something.
yeah.
And then he's like, you know what? I think I'll buy this hotel. But like the idea that you're supposed to deny, and he didn't. Um, but he's young, he's immature. I do think it was a game of telephone that escalated the situation.
Yeah, yeah, because Jordan even says like I didn't brag, like I didn't say that. He said all I said was that the guy sounds like a badass, and it was good that he saved them, and he's like, which it was, like it was good that I saved those people.
Well,
Um,
you also have to remember that his father became a successful journalist by writing about his campaigns as Superman. He wrote about Superman's activities, and it's like so you do something and you get to tell the whole world about it in a newspaper. But I do something I can't even pretend that this person exists. I can understand him being frustrated with that. I don't think the show touched on that part, but
and Lois is right too. Lois says we knew this was going to happen sometime because you're training him, and that is the most frustrating thing. So Clark is training Jordan, but also he benches Jordan every chance he can get,
mhm.
which is in turn making Jordan want the credit. It's making him want to do this more because he feels like he's ready. And each time he's done something, he's pretty much done it correctly, except for maybe one or two mishaps that he thinks I am ready.
So
And
Superman setting him up for validation seeking, and then that
who do you get
is,
that through but the public, right? You get it
yeah,
through the public.
I get what you're going with there. I thought it was pretty irresponsible when they said they were going to take away the suit because I was like, well, then he's going to do it without any protection at all, which I was like, we kind of know from other things that that's not a very helpful tact with teenagers. But
Yeah,
I
yeah.
digress.
And I know this is a different continuity, right? But I'm going to bring up Smallville a bit here because Clark did save tons of people as a kid in that show without a disguise, all right? Clark is going out with his red jacket and blue t-shirt and saving people's lives at school. He's putting away bad guys from his class and they have to hope that when they go away to Belle Reve that they just say, "Oh, that person's insane," right? Like that's some like Clark says that pretty much like, "Oh, they're not going to believe them. They're in Belle Reve." And it's like I I understand that that's not realistic or anything, but I'm just saying like it is funny to have like one Superman who had no care in that, and then this Superman telling him to pretty much like bench yourself. You're not gonna save anybody. You're not gonna like. That's where it kind of rings a little hollow to me because I do think
Hmm.
Superman would maybe not this Superman, but I think most Supermen would be like, "Look, you're doing something good. Now you just have to be smarter about it." Instead of the immediate reaction of you're benched, you're grounded, you're not going to do this.
This is true. This is true, but the second he just flies down and lands right in front of the people, lets them take all the selfies, and just soaks up the attention, even after his dad sees him, and then he goes home and he acts like a little brat, and then
Yeah, yeah,
he looks like he's gonna full on take Superman, which, bud, that's not gonna go your way, and
right. You're only half
like,
Kryptonian, bud. All right.
yeah, you're half Kryptonian, and look, the only advantage you have is that Superman won't kill anybody, and I'm pretty sure his son is the last person he would kill.
Now, the only thing that I could say is silly about this as well, you're bringing up the pictures and the stuff like that. All right.
Yeah.
He has a disguise, right? This is the same universe, Chris,
Where
where
you put on glasses and
you
you're
put on
fine.
glasses. They have no clue you're Superman, even though Lana is talking to Superman during a world ending event in the first season, and then is talking to Clark like up close, close, both of them up close within minutes of each other.
Without any
Nobody's
voice
going to figure out
modulation.
Jordan is the Samaritan. Nobody's going to figure that out. He's got goggles and a little hood that covers his hair. Nobody's going to
Well,
know it's him.
I also find it funny that Superman is constantly in Smallville and they're worried about
Yes.
flight patterns for Jordan.
It's
But
like, hey, Superman's always helping out John Henry Irons and always helping out Lois Lane, and they're pretty good friends with Clark. Do you think he could be Superman?
look, when you overthink these things, it becomes ridiculous.
Yeah, yeah. No, the
You
only reason I bring it up is because the show is bringing it up by saying he's going to get caught. And I'm like, nobody's caught Clark, all right? And Jordan's disguise is 100% better than Clark's.
well, Jordan's disguise, it's funny because they hide the hair. And it's so funny because if Jordan just cut his hair, he probably could have had the same disguise as his father, and it totally would have worked in the explanation of the show. And but he's out there looking like Frodo, and he's got a. Like Jordan annoyed me in this episode because I'm trying to defend him the whole episode because, like you said, it was escalated to a point that was not really fair in the beginning. I agree with that, but then he does this, and I'm like, oh, he is so immature. Oh God, you just want to be like almost be like, oh honey, who hurt you? What's wrong with you? Come on, man.
Well, yeah, he had a low blow against Sarah when they were
Which
talking in
was
the diner too. It
which was
was
gross. It was
yeah.
gross. I'm sorry. It's just
He keeps bringing
he
up this thing of especially what in the episode like 2 episodes ago when he's talking about George Jr. and is like kind of cuts into their conversation and he's totally
totally
being a jerk
unprompted too.
ex.
Like he just goes
Yeah.
in. He
He's
just
just being
goes in and decides
controlling,
that.
kind of
Yep.
possessive. Yeah.
Yeah, and you know what? It was so uncalled for what he did. Like Sarah's in that episode isn't necessarily avoiding him. He, she's just not acting like he's the only one she's allowed to talk to. Like Sarah is her own person, and she, is doing something that doesn't involve him, which is totally fine, especially because at the moment they're not even together. And then he says, "Ah, I'm so angry that I fell in love with you." Like,
Yeah.
get over it, brother. Get over it. Like, it's not her problem. You're making her problem your problem, which is really getting late. So I keep wanting to defend Jordan because I love Jordan in this show. In seasons 1 and 2, I thought Jordan might be the strongest character. He's been fantastic, but I have to admit, Jordan is wearing on me with his immaturity in this season.
Well, that's why I also think anybody that says this is a self-insert character for Todd Helbing or a creator's pet, it's like we're not supposed to agree with Jordan during this stuff. So what do you think? Like, I
Yep.
mean, come on. I mean, this is obviously this is the plot they're going to go with them. I also don't think they're going to make him evil like some people are thinking. I think it's
Mm-mm.
just going to be normal parenting of a teenager. I think that's what this show's about. We
Yeah,
get to
we forget how young he is. We
yeah,
always forget how
16.
young these people are.
16.
16 looking like 33. No,
Um
he's like he's
I did
20
want to
something.
highlight. I want to highlight Smallville and their tornadoes too, because this happened in season 1 of Smallville in a finale, a tornado that Clark saves Lana in. Then we have the infamous Man of Steel tornado that kills Pa Kent.
Well, it was so funny because
Then we have this one.
I literally said, "Oh God, this is just like Man of Steel." There's Grandpa, and I was like, if he holds out his hand, I'm done.
But you want to know why this was better than Man of Steel? It's because Clark actually flew into the tornado and stopped it, like I said
Yeah,
he could when we talked
yeah,
about Man of
yeah,
Steel.
I know. It's almost it's almost like I love on the show. We've always said about the show that everything in Superman is loved and rejoiced in the show and respected. Well, this is almost like, hey, Man of Steel, middle finger.
True, true.
Oh, and speaking of past Superman iterations, I wanted to mention this earlier. When Kyle finds out that Clark is Superman, the next episode he becomes Jimmy Olsen. He's like totally Jimmy Olsen. He's like, oh my God, Superman, can I help you, Superman?
And he's telling Clark anything you need from me.
Uh-huh.
He's sticking up for Jonathan.
He wants to be his best friend so
Yeah,
bad.
yeah. Superman's pal, Kyle Cushing.
Kyle
Um,
Olsen.
no, yeah, I look, I think Kyle's one of the best characters in this show. I'm hoping they get
He's
him
growing on
back
me.
for a
Yeah.
lot in season 4 because I think he's got a pretty good like, especially he's having that conversation with Sarah about mistakes he's made. He's like, not just about the divorce and stuff, but other things in his life that has gone wrong, and he's able to look back at that stuff and you know,
For
um,
whatever
just
reason,
good.
I think Lana's the more fleshed out character, but for whatever reason, I think Kyle is the one who has seems to have all the parent answers. I think Lana and Sarah always have this weird little thing where they kind of manipulate each other and they act bitchy towards each other in these moments, whereas Kyle just kind of has the answers for Sarah. And she, looking back, is a talent competition in season 1. It's like, no, you're going to do this, and he goes out and he helps her and stuff like that. Kyle just seems to have the answers when it comes to parenting. And I like that because, you know, good dad, not a good husband.
I like
I
that
think
it
that's pretty
shows. Yeah,
much, yeah.
I like that it shows
He's
that
a good person.
sometimes people will think that if you're not a good parent, you're not. I mean, if you're not a good spouse, you're not a good parent. But like, he still wants to be in his children's lives, except Sophie's. He still wants
Yep.
to be.
Nobody
Uh,
wants Sophie.
tornadoes going on. Nobody cares about her at all.
Where's
Uh,
Sophie? There's a tornado.
what part made my wife laugh out a lot? When they're like, "Get under the desk," and there's nowhere to get under the desk.
Well,
They
it's
get under
funny
like this much
because
that overhangs.
yeah, it's funny because my mom's like, "Why are they all just watching it?" And I was like, "Where are they gonna go? It's a flat area of nowhere to hide.
Yeah, yeah,
There's no basement in the diner,
right, right. Oh
or
boy.
is there?"
And then we end it with Lex and Otis gets killed off by Bizarro pretty quickly, and Lex. What's his plans with Bizarro?
So my question with Bizarro is, when's the last time he's seen the sun, and how does he have any powers right
Well, I mean, Clark has powers inside, right? So I mean, I feel
Yeah,
like
but
that.
like he hasn't seen the sun for a long time. He's been under there. He's basically like Project Superman at this
Well,
point.
Project Superman was like 30 years, right? 20 some years.
Fair enough. So how long does it take?
Yeah,
But that
this
was
has
my
only been a
question for that.
year, not
That
even.
that was my question for that. But yeah, the most disgusting image in the whole show is uh
Eating rats.
inverse. Yeah, and then like it was almost more savory to off screen eat Otis than it was to eat the rats. Like that was just an image I did not need.
Yeah, my wife let out an audible like, ugh. It was a pretty dark few episodes. Like we said, we saw the guy get just freaking blown up by Pia, and then we have
Uh-huh.
this bit. Lex beating the crap out of people. I mean, it was a pretty brutal few episodes.
So I love the restraint that Clark has when Lex Luthor is on their porch and he's threatening his wife. And you know he just wants the Superman out and just
Hmm.
put this man into the ground. And like if I was Superman in that situation, I would have a really hard time not exposing myself as Superman.
Yeah, yeah. He says, "You need to go," right? And Lex
But it
is not.
shows you he's strong as Clark too, and that's
Yeah,
really awesome. But Lois does a really good job of not giving an inch. Lois does a really good job of being strong in that scene, and you know,
yeah. She's like, "You want me to what? Retire?" No, right?
yeah, like it's not even an option, and I love that she's not shaken by that. But I got to be honest, this Lex Luthor is going to be a huge problem, and it's like, and then the trailer for next week is like, we're going to kill Superman. It's like,
Yeah.
holy crap, is that the
Yeah, do
cliffhanger?
we get Death of Superman? I mean, we got Steel, we've got
Hmm.
a Superboy in Jordan. Like,
Yeah, but we
is that where
can't
we're
get
going?
Death of
We got
Superman
Lex.
because we can't because Steel is not a main character next season. So
No, he'll be in a few episodes. I guarantee.
I know. I'm just being a smarty pants.
Yeah, I wonder though. Like, they're like, crap. Now we really have to
And now it's like,
rethink our finale.
yeah.
I don't know.
Well, I'm
Death
gonna
of
laugh
Superman
if
in 42
yeah.
minutes, and he's
Well,
back.
in 1 year. But
Yeah,
yeah, I wonder about this. What they're gonna do with the cliffhanger? Because we know there's gonna be a cliffhanger. We know this as a fact.
Tyler Hecklin said brutal cliffhanger.
So, all right. I'm wondering if Clark kills Bizarro Superman.
Hope
I
not.
wonder if that's the brutal. What if he has a neck snap or something like that? You
Yeah.
know,
So yeah, like Bizarro Superman's using his
at
laser
a train
beam at
station.
a train station, and Clark's like, "I have no other choice right now." Um, I don't know because
Something to do
they
it.
were friendly, right? They were friendly when he died.
Yeah,
He helped him to defeat. What was it, Allie at that point? I don't even
Ali
remember. No, it was
Austin.
the
It
general,
was
right?
yeah, it was the general guy who was like from lame to bad guy in like
Yeah,
one
talk
minute.
about forgettable. That
Yeah,
the villains of season two.
we don't even remember his name. But was he even was that even a comic book character?
Yes, Anderson. That's who it was.
Anderson.
Anderson. I think he's the one that. Well, I don't know if he is a comic book character. Mitch Anderson. Yes, he is.
Okay.
He was known as Outburst. It's a team leader, and he had magnetism manipulation in the comics, but he was nothing like his self here.
No, that sounds a lot like Magneto, but
1999
okay.
when he
Interesting.
created.
Yeah,
But yeah,
interesting.
so the next episode is called "What Kills You Only Makes You Stronger," which is a play on the words of what doesn't kill you makes you stronger. So maybe this is a cancer reference as well, or maybe this is the Bizarro Superman reference, right? Directed by Gregory Smith, written by Brent Fletcher and Todd Helbing. It premieres June 27th. We'll be back next week talking about that, of course. But
Hmm.
um, yeah, any other speculation or thoughts on the season before we start wrapping up?
I think that next week is going to be an emotional episode, and I think it is going to make us need the next season immediately. That's generally what happens with the show. It's like, oh God, it's done. The one good thing about season two is it kind of wrapped up in a nice little bow. That's not the feeling you're going to get next Tuesday. It's just not.
I'm really excited for it. It's the day after my birthday that's its premiere, so it's like a little birthday present for my Superman loving self. So I'm very excited.
It's happy birthday.
Thank you.
Happy birthday. How old now?
32.
All right, you're about 2 years younger than me. I turned 34 in November.
There you go.
So there you go. I have an interesting thought.
Hmm.
Every season has ended on a pretty positive note. What if this one doesn't?
I think you're right. I think it won't. When they're saying brutal cliffhanger and stuff like that, I think it'll be a not positive note. Uh, and I'm just hoping it really sets up well for a
Season
what
4.
what I hope is a final season in season 4 that is just straight up Lex Superman
Hmm.
going at it. And
And,
look, somebody asked this on like the Facebook group I'm a part of, but they're like, "How do you want this show to end?" And I've said it quite a few times, but I just want it to end without a definitive ending.
so
Um,
this show does foreshadowing very well, and they had the
mhm.
nightmare sequence with Lois Lane falling to the Daily Planet.
Oh
Um,
right, I totally
I
forgot about that. That's
wonder
like the
if
first
that
episode.
comes back into an actual scene. I wonder if that comes back to Clark is split between beating Luther or saving Lois, and you know what he'll choose there, which will set up the next season. That's my thought process with that. But Lex Luthor is very focused on involving Lois in Superman's retribution. To him, they are very similar in his vendetta. It's actually a little interesting that Clark gets none of the Luther vitriol because Lois is.
Well, he's not the one that put him away,
No,
right?
I understand that, but um, it's interesting because he's the husband and he's a journalist too. They probably worked together on that thing. So I just found that really interesting. The one sided, just completely like let's kill Lois thing. Um,
What I like about that though is that Lex is the nemesis to both people in the title, right?
yeah,
He's
there you
the
go.
nemesis to Superman and the nemesis to Lois. Clark, he's not, right? He doesn't even think of Clark, I think is the way that Lex operates. And I like that. I like that, like, especially if season 4 is them versus Lex, it is a united front of Superman and
Hmm.
Lois against Lex.
I did find it odd that they felt guilty about putting Lex Luthor behind bars because it's like he's Lex Luthor. He might not be guilty of this, but him screaming on the porch that he's innocent.
Yeah.
Oh, come on.
after
Oh,
he
come
had
on.
after he bribed the warden. Oh, my other favorite part of this is when I laughed and my wife was like, "Why'd you laugh at that?" And I was like, "Because it's just like so funny." But it was like the warden being like, "Are you gonna like pay me? Are you gonna bribe me? Because I'm open to it." Like just the way he said that. And then when he's like, Lex is like, "I'm not gonna bribe you," and he's like, "All right, we're done here then." I'm
He's
like, that
not
guy was
bribing
so
you,
ready to
he's
get paid.
extorting you. Yeah, I know. He was he was so ready. And you know what? It would have been the easier route to just be like, here's $10,000.
Oh, he got to do it for free. He was able to
Uh,
get himself for free there. Um,
I didn't become a billionaire by paying people off.
exactly. He's like, nah, I pay off my goons who will uh, physically harm you, or you give me what I want.
It was so very much like the Jesse Eisenberg scene where he's on the phone.
Shaving the head.
No, he's on the phone going, like you can't save both, blah blah blah. And, it's just I was, and I was just thinking about how much stern this Luther is in comparison to Jesse Eisenberg. Like it was just, it's like God, if we could only have gotten a badass Luther in that universe.
Yeah,
Ah, because
yeah.
everything about that movie was badass except for Luther. Luther was clowny.
I think even Eisenberg could have done a better job. If I think it was the direction they wanted him to do. They wanted him to be kooky, and I think if he played it like a normal guy, I think he could have been so much better.
Yeah.
So it was either his idea or the people when they were casting him were like, "We want a kooky Lex Luthor."
We have taken some jabs at the Snyderverse fan. I feel a little guilty as a Snyderverse fan. Like,
Hey, look,
but
I took
like,
jabs at the show with the secret identity stuff. I mean, it is what it is. You can
yeah,
point out
yeah.
stuff
Oh,
like this.
absolutely. Absolutely. I also am allowed to enjoy more than one thing, Snyderverse fans. Um, but I'm only a little salty because we just saw an excellent movie that got no chance to be successful. It's you know
With lots of Superman in it. But yeah, if you want to if you want to know our thoughts on the Flash, you can check out the
yeah,
review that we posted earlier this week. It was on Monday. This episode's going up
yeah.
on Saturday. Uh, so we're preparing for the finale on Tuesday. We're really
Hmm.
excited for that. Let us know your thoughts in the comments or by reaching us at Elseworlds DC fan on TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. You can also leave us reviews on Spotify and on Apple Podcasts. And you can also like and subscribe our YouTube because we're putting up some YouTube specific content over the time coming up here soon as well. So keep your eyes out for all of that stuff. Um, thank you all for watching or listening. And I guess you'll see us next week when we talk this big finale of season 3 of Superman and Lois.
Peace. Let's do it.